Hey everyone, it's Hydro Pump here. Today I got a 2014 Shaddoll deck profile for you guys. This one is going to be covering the ARG I topped with, or event I topped with at the time with this deck. And it was a new challengers format, which is like the set where Cleafort, El Shaddoll, and uh, a couple other Burning Abyss cards, and just a bunch of new support for these decks we have. Cleafor was a new deck at the time. But I took Shaddoll to this tournament, and I ended up getting third place, so I always thought this was a cool deck. Deck I really liked, and I just wanted to do a deck profile for you guys, a retro deck profile. It's kind of sad. I had a deck profile for the tournament that my friend did, and it was on YouTube, but his channel got taken down at some point, so can't really get to see my old deck profile, unfortunately. But I'm just kind of remaking a new one for a deck I really liked. So hope you guys enjoy. I'm just gonna jump right into it. So we're just gonna go ahead with the monsters. We got 3 Shaddoll Beast. Just talk about Beast for a second. It was really common to play Beast at 3 at the time because just due to the mirror match, and it was a really strong monster to just get a draw or draw 2 off it. It's kind of like a graceful charity in a sense. But a lot of times it's like if you play in the Shaddoll mirror match, to avoid playing into Shaddoll Fusion, you have like Summit Construct turn 1, and then you search Hedgehog to set Beast over the construct and get your Shaddoll Fusion back or whatever you made with Construct, and that's just a good way to get Beast on the field and taking your extra deck monster off the field. So yeah, Beast was really good for that. And I played 2 Squamata. Squamata was really good. It was probably like one of my favorite Shaddoll monsters, just because it's any Shaddoll card, pretty much, and that comes up later on. But Squamata just pretty much, I didn't really feel like it was necessary to play 3 um, at this tournament or at this time. But later on, 3 comes like kind of like widely accepted for like this, because again, this is any Shaddoll monster. So if you're fusing, you know, you probably want to fuse with Squamata. Outside of that, it's not really that great if you're not fusing with it, but um, yeah, you just pretty much want to fuse with Squamata. And I'll come back to Squamata then once I get to the rest of the deck. Then I played 2 Shaddoll Dragon. Dragon was pretty good just for popping back row. Mostly came up against like Satellar Knights or like Cleafort. It was pretty good when like Vanity's Emptiness was really common, and Emptiness was like played at like 3 in most decks in the format before or like the set before, just because it was like just such a crazy card. But I had a friend. I didn't take his advice, good thing, but he was like trying to convince me to play like 3 Dragon. I always stuck with 2. I always thought like 2 was enough. Later on, Dragon gets dropped down to 1 just because it doesn't really advance your game state, which I understand. Like in Necros format, it's like you only want to play 1 Dragon just because you don't want to see it that much. You'd rather just like send off Construct to pop something rather than have it in your hand. So that's kind of like maybe where the third Squamata comes in, dropping a Dragon for a Squamata. That would definitely make sense. Just wanted to make sure you don't play too many Shaddoll monsters. And then we played 2 Hedgehog. Uh, Previously, people would probably play like 3, maybe just because you can go Shadow Games, flip Hedgehog, or you can just flip Hedgehog to search for Shaddoll Fusion. But with this new Challenger set, you had El Shaddoll Fusion, which you had more fusion spells. Anyways, so you weren't really using Hedgehog for the flip effect. You were just mostly, setting it to the grave to search like something like Squamata or Beast. Probably Beast, just because you can set it over the fusion monster you just summoned again. But yeah, Hedgehog was really important in the mirror match, so I feel like it was necessary to play it too. And then for the last Shaddoll monster in the main deck, we played 1 Shaddoll Falco. I wasn't really too much of a fan of Falco at this point, just because it was really slow, because, it was pretty much just only used for as a flip effect, because this went set to the grave. Like, all these ones have, like, crazy grave effects, but when this one's sent to the grave, you just resummon it. So if they Raigeki or Falco, or you send Falco and it dies somehow, you know, this is gone forever. It doesn't really do anything. But I did respect it as a tuner, just because like you can make some pretty strong synchros with Falco. So I did play the 1. Don't think I really missed playing 2 at all, but I think the only Shaddolls I would maybe consider bumping up, maybe it's like another Squamata and potentially a 3rd Hedgehog. But yeah, again, you don't want to play too many Shaddolls just because, like, how many we got here? We got 10 Shaddolls. And you don't want to draw like too many because you want to draw like the rest of your engine. So definitely want to get to your Shaddoll cards, but it's not like the main focus to resolving their effects and all that. So yeah, that's all the Shaddoll monsters. And we play 3 Denko Sekka. Now Denko Sekka just came out in this set. No one this is like, again, this is like a new set card. No one really knew about this card, so I was able to catch a lot of opponents off guard with this. Ideally, you want to summon Denko Sekka and then like Shaddoll Fusion and go off. And the format before, or the set before this, new challengers, is like you had like really heavy trap Shaddoll or trap Burning Abyss, and then you had Satellar Knights as like the other decks, and the third deck's a Shaddoll. But Burning Abyss was like 20 traps, was really popular. So I felt like this would just be like an insane card just to catch those decks off guard, and it was a pretty good card. Can't complain about it. It was really good. I like to technically pride myself on this because I was technically the first person to top with this. Though I'm sure there was like a bunch of regionals and stuff the same weekend as ARG, but it just happened to be the one tournament where that was going on that weekend. That was like a somewhat major tournament. Even though I think this ARG had like less people than what a regional would be. Anyways, aside the point, so I like to say like, oh, I'm the first person playing this card. But anyways, most people were playing like other Shaddoll players. They were playing like the artifact build, which I wasn't too fond of. So yeah, Denko Sekka was it's kind of like the replacement of the Lila and the Patrick Hoban Chaos Shaddoll list that you topped with earlier in the format, when like 3 Super Poly and 3 Soul Charge was allowed before the ban list. But I feel like this card just kind of, you can take care of, like, your opponent can have 5 set cards and just use summon this, and they can't really do anything about it. So yeah, that's Denko Sekka. Really good card. It was a splashable in this deck, and it fit it really well because it's a light monster you can synchro with if you have to, and then you can just OTK your opponent. That was kind of like my envision with this deck. It was just like, if your opponent has like a Dante on the field, and then I have like Shaddoll Fusion, Denko Sekka, you know, you can go OTK. For other light monsters, I play 2 Raiden. I still play the Raiden package, even, and not the Lila package, just because I feel like Denko is just better Lila. And I stuck with 2 Raiden. I feel like I probably should have played a 3rd, but I was just concerned about having too many normal summons with between 3 Denko Sekka and then 3 Raiden. But I did end up breaking a couple times throughout the tournament just by not having a solid normal summon a lot of times. So, and then Raiden kind of just gets you going if your opponent doesn't stop it. So yeah, Raiden, I really liked it, and as a tuner as well, which is just kind of crazy and random. But yeah, Raiden's really good just to get your deck going. And then onto the Chaos engine, we played 1 Blackluster Soldier, pretty common at the time in Shaddolls. Don't remember about, maybe even Burning Abyss played it at some points. Anyways, BLS, really crazy card. You got a bunch of lights, you got a bunch of darks, it works. And then you got 2 Chaos Sorcerers. I was holding this deck profile off for a long time just because I wanted to get the Ultra Chaos Sorcerers for this deck profile, because I had like some jank gold ones and I wasn't having it. Anyways, I got this one recently, and then I got one from Keegan from Edison Format, E3 Yu-Gi-Oh. So if you don't know him, check out his channel, subscribe. He helped me getting this one, so appreciate it. But anyways, yeah. So Chaos Horse is pretty much baby BLS. Just really good cards, and they're good aside from like their effects, which I'll get into in a second. Then we got Dark Arm Dragon. Just pretty crazy in this deck because you play Eclipse Wyvern. So pretty much if you don't know Eclipse Wyvern, if it's sent to the grave, then you get to banish a Dark Dragon or Dark Light Dragon. And it's a level 7 or higher, which is meets a requirement for Dark Arm. You get to banish it, and then when this card's banished from your grave, you get to add the Dark Arm to your hand. And this is the only target for that. So pretty much you go like Shaddoll Fusion, dump this and a Shaddoll, assuming your opponent has a extra deck monster, and then you summon you send this, and then you summon one of these guys, or you can even summon the black and white dragons to meet this requirement as well. But you banish the Wyvern in some way with any of these monsters, and then you add Dark Arm Dragon back. So at this point, you have a like Shaddoll construct on the field. You have one of your Chaos monsters, and then you're adding Dark Arm Dragon. And if you happen to add Denko Seka in the mix, things get a little crazy, and your opponent can't really do too much about it. It happened a couple times in the tournament. That was kind of like the ideal setup with this deck. And like if you're summoning Denko Seka, your opponent just can't activate Vanity's Emptiness or anything like that, which again was pretty popular previously. So yeah, Dark Arm is a really good card. I play a bunch of darks. You can control your grave pretty well. And then you have Wyvern helps with that. And then just the baby dragons. They're really good just for like tribute fodder with Beast. You got synchro fodder with like Raiden. You can make level 8 synchros, so that's really good. You can fuse with them, so if you summon Wyvern Burster, you can synchro, make construct, and they get Black Dragon. So it's like kind of like a +1 there. So anyways, yeah, these cards are all like really good, and just kind of make up for the chaos package you got going on. So it's chaos, or essentially chaos Shaddolls, but I think it was called Denko dolls most commonly. So yep, I think that is it for the monsters. It is. So that is all the monsters. Quite a beefy monster lineup. For the spells, we have the signature card for Shaddoll Fusion. Pretty much, you get if your opponent has an extra deck monster, you get to activate this and make a fusion monster, but Shaddoll monster, but you get to use the materials from your deck. So pretty much, previously fusions were just terrible because you had to use materials from your like resources you already had. But the set where Shaddolls and Satellars and Burning Abyss came out, it was just kind of like game changing because you had cards that just got you like resources out of nowhere, pretty much. Whereas like previously you had to kind of fight for your resources. Like this is kind of like the first time where it's just like it's essentially like Future Fusion, but like right away you're just dumping stuff for your deck and getting your engine going, and you're pretty much punishing your opponent for summoning from the extra deck by doing that. So yeah, Shaddoll Fusion is a really crazy card. I love it. It's just a really solid card. And joining it is 3L Shaddoll Fusion, which was brand new for this tournament. I don't think a lot of people were on this card, as well as Denko Seka for this tournament. Again, a lot of people were playing the artifact Shaddolls for some reason. They weren't very good. But anyways, I knew L Shaddoll Fusion was kind of like the replacement for Super Polymerization, or it was kind of like a replacement, but not a replacement in the same way. But anyways, it's a quick play spell similar to Shaddoll Fusion, but it's just like a regular. It's essentially just like a regular fusion spell, but it's quick play. So you get to play on your opponent's turn and whatnot. And or during your battle phase, you can OTK that way as well. So yeah, not a lot of people were playing this card at 3, just because I guess they were on the artifact build, but it was crazy in this build just because it's just previously, like, what was wrong with Shaddolls, or what was the problem, is that they just didn't have enough good fusion spells. So like you had 3 Shaddoll fusion in your deck, and then you had super polys 1 to 3 depending on which list you were playing, and that was it. But you know, with El Shaddoll, it's, you have like a lot more fusion spells, and you don't really need to rely on your opponent having like a light or dark monster for like super poly. So yeah, I really enjoyed El Shaddoll fusion. So let's get those out of the way. Just put them down there. And speaking of super poly, I played 1 super poly. Yeah, again, just another fusion spell. I know the card's like really broken, but I remember thinking after the tournament it wasn't that good. I probably just didn't see it very much, or I saw it like at a bad time. But yeah, super poly is just like a really crazy card. It says your opponent cannot react. So yeah, super poly is just insane. And then let's see, we have 3 Upstart Goblin. Help you get to all these good cards. Just one draw and thin your deck. Again, 3 Upstart. This is technically an OTK deck, but like, you know, Upstart gets you to your good cards so you can OTK. So, and it's just 3 less bad cards you have to play. So that's good enough for me. And there's a bunch of one-ofs here. We got Raigeki, Foolish Burial, and Allure of Darkness. Raigeki was kind of like a filler card. It was just, so I was kind of worried because previously in the previous format, maybe a couple weeks before this tournament, a really popular deck was like the Stun Burning Abyss Monarch deck, where they play like Monarchs and like Fiends. I think actually they just moved to like straight Majesties and Vanity's Fiend, which honestly this deck doesn't really have a lot of outs. Like you have like Super Poly with Majesty's Fiend, you have Shaddoll Dragon and Squamata to pop the Vanity's Fiend, but that's not really too ideal. So out of spite of that, I elected to main deck 1 Raigeki. It was kind of funny. I played against a Burning Abyss player, and I had Raigeki in my starting hand, and I ended up using it. But then later on, he summoned Majesty's Fiend, and I just like lost to it. It was like a random tech Majesty's Fiend. I was like, okay. So yeah, this card was probably cuttable, because the thing is, like, I think it got off the list previously, but a lot of these cards like just like they just replace themselves. Like the Shaddoll or Satellar Knights, Burning Abyss, they all replace themselves. So this card was like really mediocre. Like it might be okay against Cleafort, but if they're making a board, that's probably not good news for you anyways. But yeah, I wasn't too satisfied with this card, but it is what I played. Foolish Burials is good to get your Shaddolls engraved, or Eclipse Wyvern, so it's just like a pretty insane card. Allure of Darkness, you play a bunch of Shaddolls, Chaos Monsters, so if you're digging for something like this, then, you know, Allure of Darkness is really good. And that's it for all the spells. And then for the traps, I only played 3. I played 2 Sinister Shadow Games and 1 Shaddoll Core. I'll just start with Shadow Games. This is like, so like the cards I wanted to cut from the main deck like after the tournament was the 2 Shadow Games and the Raigeki. Shadow Games is okay. It kind of, so it's more so for like the trap decks, or like maybe just getting my engine going if I have like a slow start, like these cards set, then, you know, Shadow Games just use it there. And then like Shadow Games just makes Falco like a little bit more valuable just because you can go do the Falco, and then you can flip Falco and then set Beast, and then you can flip Beast on your opponent's turn, or your turn. I mean, anyways, Shadow Games, it's an okay card. It mainly was good in this tournament just for like flipping it and having like Shaddoll Dragon in your deck act like an MST for like your opponent's scout, Cleaford Scout. That was like the main function for this card. But yeah, outside of that, it was just like a okay card. It's not amazing. I didn't want to play 3 starting out just because I didn't want to open like a bunch of traps when I'm trying to play an OTK deck or just like really aggressive. You definitely do not want to see like 3 of these cards or too many. You know, you don't want to open with 2 and then you just have like automatically slow hand. So yeah, Shadow Games is an okay card, but I don't think I would play it in the future. Card that was like probably like one of the MVPs for me was Shaddoll Core. Now a lot of people did not play this card at all, which they shouldn't have previously, because this only functions with pretty much your Shaddoll fusion spells, which you only had the 3 regular Shaddoll fusions, but with this new set, you had El Shaddoll fusion, which worked really well with Core. So you can kind of do like a combo where you fusion summon, you know, Construct, and if you happen to fuse with Squamata and into Construct, you can do Squamata dump this, and then Construct dump Core, and then you can do Core add El Shaddoll, and then that like gives you like lethal really quickly, because then you can activate El Shaddoll after this one attacked, and then you can fuse this off to make another Construct if you have another Shaddoll card. So that was a good way to get lethal and just go for like a quick OTK push. So Core was just really good for that, because it's just a way for you to search out your fusions or reoccur them, because you can go like Shadow Game, dump Core, then you can get these back, for instance. And then if you happen to mill them off Raiden, because Raiden just mills. Previously, you wouldn't want to mill your Shaddoll fusion, but like with Core, it's good to mill your Shaddoll fusions, just because you can recur it back with Core, and you're milling with Raiden. So that was just a really cool card, Core, to me at the time. Alrighty, so that's the main deck. It was 37 cards. We're just gonna jump right into the extra deck. It was 3 Shaddoll Construct as like the main boss monster of the deck. It really gets your deck going. Just sending stuff to the grave, adding stuff back. You're just getting like an insane amount of advantage. Just like if your opponent has an extra deck monster and like let's say a Dante, and you activate Shaddoll Fusion, they got nothing, then summon this. You're essentially getting like a +2 off it. Just because you're summoning this, which 1-for-1s with the Shaddoll Fusion, you're getting 2 cards out of it, and then it just keeps on snowballing from that, or snowballing from that. Sadly, at the time, this format, I was just content with Ultras. I thought, I really like the artwork of Construct, just the way it looks on an Ultra, and I wish I had ultis now. But anyways, yeah, Construct, really good card. I love it. This just the boss monster of the deck. I played 2 Shaddoll Winda. Windas were just like, this was like another thing. Like you just had like a easy monster you can go into the extra deck with to lock your opponent out. So that was just like another turning point of this format, where you had Shaddoll Fusion that get you like free stuff, and you can fuse into this, which just locks your opponent out of the game. So this was really good against like Satellar Knights, because they go like, they summon the one guy, and then you get the Neb, and you like to summon Winda, and then they can't do anything. And then same thing with Burning Abyss, they reveal for hand or summon Torga, and you summon Winda, and then they're just kind of stuck. This, like, if you're like setting up Winda against those decks, you're just gonna win. Which was just kind of like, you have to make Construct first to get your stuff going, and then once you have that online, you make Winda, and then it's kind of just GG from there. Yeah, so Shaddoll Windows is kind of like a insane card. New Shaddoll monster in the extra deck was Shikanaga, just because it just came out, so I was figured I would just play one for the Clee4 matchup, pretty much because you can super poly like one of the big guys, and then you have a fusion monster, so that was a really cool option to me. Outside of that, I didn't really make this card at all. I feel like it's just worse than Winda or Construct. And I didn't play Mathematician either, so Shekanaga was. I tried to make it one time, but then like with core, but then I think my core got MST'd or something like that. So that would have been the one time for it to shine, but it did not work out. And then onto the synchros, we got Leo, Crimson Blader, Scrap Dragon. We got a lot of synchros. Arcanite Magician, and then Thought Ruler Archfiend. Some of these were really good, and some of these were not so good. I'll just start off with Leo, because he was like just the best one, I remember. Leo's just like insane against Brain Abyss or like S-Knights, because you do Falco with Construct. That's what I was talking about, like the power play with Falco. Just having the option to go into Leo is just pretty crazy. And then on top of that, you make Leo, and then you get Shaddoll Fusion back off Construct because it's sending it to the grave. Otherwise, you'd just be sitting on the Construct waiting for it to like go to the grave somehow. So that was just a really good way to add Shaddoll Fusion back to your hand. And on top of that, make a Leo. But yeah, Leo. This is like a massive monster that a lot of decks had a hard time dealing with at the time. Crimson Blader, I love this card. It was super clutch against like the Shaddoll mirrors, because yeah, you go like, what is it? You got Raiden, then you go one of the small dragons, which was pretty easy to set up, and then you synchro Raiden with one of these guys, and then you make Crimson Blader. You attack over one of their monsters, and then they're pretty much locked out of the extra deck and the Shaddoll mirror, because they can't make any of these because the Crimson Blade is effect because he ran over a monster. So that's an insane card for that, and a really crazy option to have in the extra deck. Scrap Dragon, that's another level 8 option. Don't think I made it a lot, but it's there. It's definitely decent. Another level 8, Thought Ruler Archfiend. This was previously thought to be good against like Brain Abyss, because particularly against like the trap Brain Abyss, because they have like a same amount of target traps like Wing Blast, Raigeki Break, Armor Cuts, which Thought the Ruler would be really good against. But pretty much Brain Abyss players pretty much moved away from those lists for the most part. Those like trap heavy builds, because they got a lot more Brain Abyss monsters which were decent. They had the synchro, so they got to also play a little bit more tempo based rather than just getting like the equalizers off their discard traps by discarding Brain Abyss monster. Anyways, Thought Ruler was not very great. I would probably come in the future. Arcanite Magician was pretty solid. Again, similar to Construct, you get to do this with Winda, and then you sync into this. You get Shaddoll Fusion back, and then so it's just a way to get Shaddoll Fusion in your hand, and then you get to pop 2 cards with that. And then on top of that, you get a light monster on your field, which, if you're struggling to get a light, that was a pretty good option. So yeah, the only one I'll probably cut is Thought Ruler Archfiend from here. Onto the sea monsters, we got Lava Wall Chain, Emerald, Second Knight, and Castell. Lava Wall Chain was probably the best one here, just because you can turbo like any of your Shaddoll monsters you need, or Close Fireman, that was the main one. You can send this to the grave. I think one time I stacked a Blackluster Soldier, so those are all good options. This card was just crazy. I think it got banned a couple formats later because it was not fair. The Guster Emerald. You have 10 Shaddoll monsters, but it's definitely possible to run out Shaddoll monsters, which happened to me in top 16 of this tournament. I was playing the Shaddoll mirror against my friend, and we had like legit like an hour and a half match, and there was no time for this tournament, so I was completely exhausted after that game, just because, or that match, because we went to game 3. It got to a point where we both ran out of Shaddoll monsters, which, never happens. I tried to make the Gusser Emerald, and he effectuated my Emerald, and then it died, and I thought I lost after that point, just because he failed my Emerald, and I was like, ugh, and then he got ran over. But yeah, that's another good function of it. And lastly, you can kind of fix your graveyard for a Dark Arm Dragon to get 3 darks in grave. If you have like, I don't know, 5 darks, you can do Emerald to spin them back and then summon Dark Arm. So that was pretty good. Excited Knight, pretty good monster. It's a light, so that's an option. But if you're making this, unless you're making with a dragon and a Squamata, you're gonna have a light anyways. But anyways, I think this came up one time where I had a Raiden and like a Black Dragon. I know I had I think I had this kind of board against Klee, and Klee for it, they made skill drain and all that. They have a lot of hate. So I had Denko and Raiden and Black Dragon, or something along those lines, and I made Excitement and blow up his field. Unfortunately, I remember he drew like Scout for his. He had no cards in hand. He drew Scout, and I just lost. Yeah, Cleaver was a kind of terrible matchup, which I didn't know at the point because Cleve just came out. So, and Castell for the last monster in the extra deck, it's solid. I don't know if it came up at all. I'm pretty sure it has like an effect where you can set a monster, which is kind of cool. You can set like a Shaddoll Beast as possible, but it didn't come up that I remember. Just go over some quick other extra deck options. You could use the 3rd Shaddoll Winda, which got popular later on. Like a couple tournaments later, but at this point, like you went from not having too many synchro spells with this like the Shaddoll fusion, like this Shaddoll fusion, and then you got 3 more. So it kind of got to a point where it's like, oh yeah, 2 windows enough, and then it got to, oh, I might need a 3rd window. So yeah, windows is can never have enough window. And then Abyss Dwellers, potentially an option. I can see it being good against Burning Abyss, just because you can just like get rid of all their guys. You can make a board and then make Dweller, and then they won't get anything back. But yet again, you could just make Winda, and then their monsters don't matter anyways. So, but yeah, it was an option. And then Goyo Guardian, level 6 option with like Falco, and then like some level 4. I don't think this one was as necessary, but yeah, it was possible to go into it. It's just, again, Goyo is not really. It was the year 2014. Goyo just came off the ban list recently, and it's like, okay, we're gonna take away the Goyo Guardian that's valuable. Like everything's just a floater. We're gonna take a Dante. Yeah, so Goyo wasn't too insane. A card that I kind of wish I played was Stardust Spark Dragon. This was just like really good with this little lockdown card that you can make. So if I were to pair this with something like Vanity's Emptiness, then it could be pretty deadly. So what I would probably change is maybe just like cutting Thought Ruler Archfiend and maybe Castell for maybe Winda and Spark Dragon. That probably might be the change I would go for with the extra deck anyways. But yeah, those are just some choices you could have made. Alrighty, so on to the side deck. I remember like I just threw my side deck together like super last minute. It was just really funny because for this tournament I was just like really like last second, like I didn't go to the sneak previews or anything, so I had to like rush to get Denko Seka, I had to rush to get El Shaddoll Fusion, I had to rush to get Shekin Naga, so like I sold a bunch of cards and I bought a bunch of cards at this tournament. And like these ended up being like super cheap later on, like maybe a couple weeks later, but I had to buy them at like hype prices, so rather unfortunate, but I ended up doing well with the deck. So worked out. Anyways, onto the side deck. Throwing it together kind of late, but the idea was okay. Vanity's Fiend. This is a pretty good card for the Shaddoll mirror, just because like you make a board, like you make construct and you have Vanity's Fiend, and that's kind of hard to deal with if they can't go into their own Shaddoll fusion. So Vanity's Fiend was just kind of like a good lockdown card for that. So you often against like the Shaddoll mirrors, you have like Vanity Fiend battles, similar to like how Vanity's Emptiness battles would go on. You have Vanity's Fiend. I just felt like I didn't side deck Vanity's Emptiness, but I felt like Fiend was just better just because I have like the Chaos Dragons that I can just sack off to bring this out really easily. So that was a good way to get Vanity's Fiend out, so I can maybe get to it a little quicker than my opponent can. And it was just a body. I didn't have to have anything else with it to make it good. Whereas Vanity's Emptiness, you kind of have to have a board before you can make it good. And it also wasn't very good, like going second. I sided 2 Effect Veilers. This card was pretty mediocre, but it was a light. That was kind of like the big thing, like for the Shaddolls back then. It's just you kind of lacked a lot of good light monsters, which I tried to fulfill with Denko Sekka and Raiden. So Effect Veiler was an option there. It was just like, hey, if I happen to have this in hand, then I can just fuse off if I have to. Outside of that, it was mainly for like something like, I think I sided just for Satellar Knights, just because if they somehow make a 101 play, then I can Effect Veiler, which actually just came up because they tried to 101 my Winda and then Effect Veiler it, and then just pretty much lost from there. So yeah, it wasn't too great, but it was okay. Mind Control. This card's just nasty against a mirror match because I just again, back to the Shaddoll Beast thing. You play you and your opponent, like if they're getting Shaddoll Fusion, they're doing Construct, Send Hedgehog, Search Beast, Set Beast, and then this is the way to like swing momentum because you mind control their beast and then you draw 2 cards, ditch 1, and then it gets a little ugly for them after that. So this is kind of like this was like known for like a blowout card, and people even like went second, and this should all mirrors just because, well, one, you start off with an extra card, so starting off with an extra card against the mirror is pretty good at this time, and then 2, mind control is a thing, so it was like just like a known side deck card against the mirror matches. And then we played 3 MST. I don't think I really liked playing MST at this time, but I had Denko Sekka, and so I thought that was good enough. But like if I'm playing, it's like a floodgate heavy deck like Cleafort, Satellar Knights. I wanted to have MST for those decks, but I'm not being too thrilled. Like I didn't main deck MST, whereas people might have previously. I remember like at this time, like MST was not very popular in the main deck, even though Vanity's Emptiness was pretty crazy. But then we played 2 Forbidden Lance. Again, I was like really, I didn't know what else to side, because I had like my set cards for like the couple matchups, and then I didn't want overside, so I was kind of sided a bunch of random cards, like Effect Veiler. This was kind of like similar to Effect Veiler because I think people sided in Lance previously, maybe for like Satellar Knights, which I did, and it was, I think it came up maybe once, but yeah, it's kind of like a random card. And this was kind of like for the Klee matchup. I sided 1 Twister and 1 Blackhorn that I think I just didn't know what to expect from the Klee deck at the time. So like I was like sitting there like, I got Twister, I got Blackhorn Heaven. I heard these cards are good against Klee. Oh yeah, this is good against like Floodgates, taking out their like Shadow Mirrors or whatever they have. And then this stops the Pendulum Summon at the time. But yeah, you don't really care about their Pendulum Summon. You just want to kill their Scout and then their Floodgates. So I'd say Twister was probably a little bit better than Blackhorn. I don't think I really saw either of them, or either of them really worked out. But maybe find something else than these 2 cards. I don't think they were very good. I could probably change a lot of cards on the side deck, like the lances, these two, and the effect trailers. Those would probably be easy cuts. Something I really liked on the side deck though was 3 breakthrough skill. Now this was for the Burning Abyss matchup post side, just because, you know, a lot of people they side in the Vanity's Fiend and Majesty's Fiend like they did previously, which these cards are really good against Shaddoll, so I wanted to be prepared for that. And I remember I got burnt pretty bad against the like Burning Abyss, Vanity's, Majesty's Fiend, the set before, or tournament a couple of weeks before. I was main decking one of these, I was siding the other two, just for that matchup. And so I just want to have 3 breakthrough skill for those. I don't think a lot of people were side decking breakthrough skill in Shaddolls though, which was kind of strange, because you're sending a bunch of stuff to the grave through like Raiden, which again a lot of people weren't playing Raiden. They were playing artifacts, but despite the besides the point, this is really good against the mirror because you can stop their own Vanity's Fiend. So yeah, this card was just really crazy against like those, like when people try to side stun against you, you know, you just break their skill, Vanity's Fiend or whatever. So yeah, those were all my side deck cards. I guess I'll go over a couple other side deck options. Well, I was gonna say like people side deck Maxi, but for like Burning Abyss, but I don't think that was correct. Like Break Your Skill was definitely the option because it's like you're gonna Maxi their one and Burning Abyss monster, and they're just gonna stop. Like you want them to go in their extra deck, so you can Shaddoll fusion. So Maxi wasn't very good, but it was commonly picked. So I don't suggest that. But these are cards I kind of dug up, or I remember I think so that I thought would be decent. So World of Creed might be okay against like, you know, I'm signing on like Lances, Twister for like all these bad decks like Satellar Knights. The Creed would probably be okay with those, but then might be better off with like Fairy Wind for the Cleavefort matchup and stun. Just because you get to take out their pendulum scales and then their floodgates at the same time, and then Vanity's Emptiness. Yeah, I feel like Vanity's Fiend did a good enough job, but this card is so crazy. And if I had Spark Dragon in the extra deck, then this would probably be even better card. So, and I think a lot of people jumped off Vanity's Emptiness after like once this set hit. It was like this card was rampant, and then like it just went away. It was kind of crazy. I think Brain Abyss still played it, but yeah, it just kind of started fading away. It wasn't as common, but yeah, this card is still like really crazy. If you like, because you can just have like a construct on board in the mirror match, and then they activate their Shaddoll fusion into its emptiness, and then it's probably GG. So yeah, I would maybe consider playing this card, and obviously add stuff I can cut from the side deck. And then I'm just gonna go over some quick options, what things I would maybe change, or other main deck options people use at the time, because for like this tournament I felt like my deck was kind of unconventional based on what I saw other people playing. But anyways, I mentioned before how I wanted to cut the Raigeki and the Shadow games. I wanted to cut these cards. So I'd probably play another Raiden, third Raiden, a Charge of the Light Brigade, and a Soul Charge. Now Raiden, I wanted to try to fit Charge in, but just playing 2 Raiden and just 1 Charge didn't really sit well with me. So I feel like you have to play a third Raiden. And then Soul Charge, and this was just like, you get mills off this, which you don't get the Shaddoll, but you get stuff in the grave, so you get at least your Chaos engine rolling. If you mill Eclipse Wyvern, you get the effect, so there's possibilities with Charge, and then Raiden is just like kind of assuring that you're always going to have like a good normal summon, at least, and they have to stop it. And the Soul Charge, I remember not liking it very much because this didn't do anything off the bat. So like, if you're sitting there with a bunch of Chaos monsters and Soul Charge in your hand, that's it. Then Soul Charge is supposed to do a lot. But if you're playing charge and mill stuff, Raiden. Soul Charge becomes okay. It wasn't like insane in this deck. I mean, it was probably pretty good, but all you're probably mostly reborning to Shaddoll monsters because you can't bring back Sekka, you can't bring back the baby dragons, and then unless you summon the chaos monsters, you can't bring those back either. But yeah, Soul Charge. Despite all that, I feel like it would have been like a decent addition to the deck, just because like it gives you a backup plan. You try to make a board, and then it's kind of like a second wave you can just activate. And Soul Charge was at 1 at this format, so it's not like something you could rely on. So, and again, I was really just trying to push the Shaddoll OTK idea. So I was like, Soul Charge you can't OTK because no battle phase, which was kind of silly, but yeah, cards is kind of crazy. So I was going for like more high impact consistency cards rather than this like fair cards. Or cards that just didn't do as much at the time. But yeah, you got those. And some other cards that people played. People maybe played like a second Falco. 2 Falco was really popular at the time with like 3 Shadow games. Played a 3rd Squamata potentially. Squamata is really good to fuse with or send to the grave because it's any Shaddoll card. So yeah, maybe I would play Squamata over Soul Charge maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, Squamata is pretty good. Something that people were really high on was Mathematician. Mathematician was essentially like a +1. It was I think the thing people liked with Mathematician was it was a guaranteed send. So with like Raiden, you're just kind of hoping you send like a Shaddoll monster or like a Eclipse Wyvern or fill up your grave. Where Mathematician is like it sends on summon, so you get to send like whatever you need. So you can send like a Eclipse Wyvern to get access to Dark Arm right away. So that was pretty good, and then it replaced itself when it died by battle. So yeah, Mathematician was solid. I just like the upside of Raiden a lot just because it was a level 4 tuner, light. You got the mill 4 cards if it landed that turn. So if you go T1, summon Raiden, you mill 4. You have a possibility to go +2 there. Whereas, Mathematician you go +1 all the time pretty much. So this was like definitely a little bit more fair and concise sending to the grave card. Whereas Raiden's kind of like random, but like more big time hit or miss. But I think Raiden kind of fits better with the Chaos package, just because you have the dragons you can fuse with, and you're just fueling the grave so much more than Mathman. But Mathman is definitely a solid card. Do not dislike it. And you got the Lila package. Again, Lila's okay. But I feel like Denko just kind of like outclassed it at this point. Because I think the only reason I was considering Lila is because just to play charge, but I decided against it because I wasn't playing the 3rd Raiden. But you can probably get away with 3 Raiden and 1 charge. But Lila's is kind of like hoping to pop 1 card, and then Danny's Empty is kind of just faded away a little bit at this time because Shaddoll Mirrors stopped playing it for whatever reason. Then you could potentially play another Shadow game. Again, Shadow Game's a little bit better with Mathman Falco package because you can go like Mathman, send Squamata Falco, set Falco, and then you have Shadow Game to flip it, get Beast. So you can kind of snowball that way. But again, it's kind of like an ideal setup thing. Anyways, I think that's mostly everything I had to say for this deck. I really enjoyed it at the time. I wish I got to play like more tournaments and such. I think I played like maybe 2 tournaments at this time, which was like ARG Raleigh, and then I went a couple weeks later to ARG Atlanta. But yeah, I really enjoyed this deck. It's a lot of fun doing this deck profile. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this deck profile or enjoyed Shaddolls, or you want to see more retro deck profiles. Again, Thanks everyone. I'll catch you guys later.